Welcome back to the channel, everyone. My name is Luke, and today I'm going to be talking about Peter Pan and Wendy. This is the latest live action adaptation of a classic Disney story, which we've had a ton of live action adaptations of this. I would consider this kind of going into Disney's latest bucket of what they've been doing, going after the story of Peter Pan. So we have director David Lowery coming to take on the realms here, most notable for A Ghost Story, The Green Knight, and he even directed the remake of, or Pete's Dragon. If you've seen Pete's Dragon, you know that it's generally a mixture of animation and live action, whereas the new one is a little bit more of the CGI focus. But let's get into Peter Pan and Wendy, because this was a very anticipated film for me. If you follow me on Letterboxd, you look at my favorite films, you know that Hook is a favorite. Just the story of Peter Pan is very nostalgic to me. It's something I grew up with. I even went and found this version of the book that I have read to my children. It's one that I grew up reading with my parents, and just really love the story of Peter Pan. And so, you know, I've got a lot of connection with this story, and so this is one I was excited to see. Very disappointed that this did not get a theatrical release. This went straight to Disney Plus. You can stream it now. Came out this past weekend. But unfortunately, I may have to say that this could be one of my most disappointing watches of the year. A lot going on here, and at the same time, a lot not going on. So here we are focused around the core story of Wendy, who is the oldest of her siblings. She has two younger brothers, and it seems like she is getting ready to go off to, you know, some sort of school. She's kind of just in that phase of life where it's done playing games. It's time to grow up and learn how to become an adult and take on responsibility and things like that. You know, her brothers are still very young. They're the pirates. They're playing. They're sword fighting. She's very adventurous in this take. She's ready to get in there and play with them. And this is set in this element where they're reading the story of Peter Pan. So this is, to them, it's just a story. These are just made up characters that their parents would read to them as they go to bed at night. But we're quickly diving into this world where Peter Pan shows up with Tinkerbell, and we get this mixture. This is almost a darker take on the story of Peter Pan, and I think this is where some things kind of worked and some things didn't, because we are tossed into this world really fast in a very quick-like manner that had me struggling to connect with right away. Getting into, you know, Peter Pan, I think one of the biggest issues I had with this is with Peter Pan, his character is generally this trickster. He's very all over the place. He's constantly wanting to play tricks. Everything's a game to him. Everything's an adventure. But even through all of that, he's generally this likable character as well. And I don't think we really got much of that in this movie, or this portrayal of Peter Pan. He's a lot edgier. It's more heavy on the tricks and wanting, not so much the tricks really. I don't think we found so much tricks. It was so much of let's go on this adventure. And then later on in the story, we do get much more deeper connection between his character and Captain Hook, which we'll get into in a second. But it was a lot of this that I just could not connect with this character. I was honestly kind of annoyed anytime Peter Pan was on screen, which is very unfortunate. So once we get into Neverland, this was the next thing that I just wasn't really happy with. Is Neverland is supposed to be this very magical place, and I don't think we really got this. Here you can definitely tell that this is set on a location. You get more of this Scotland-esque vibe to it than this magical Neverland place, because it's basically just a bunch of hills that's very green. Occasionally we get to see the pirate ship. We do go into where the Lost Boys are living, and that was kind of cool, but it just wasn't enough. It's just, I don't know. Like when you see Neverland, you want to get excited for this new place, this magical place with pirates and Indians and mermaids and the Lost Boys and the forest and just all of this, the fairies, and we just did not get that. And I think a lot of that could go into like just the general color tone being used throughout this film. If you've watched like The Green Knight or Pete's Dragon, you can see, you know those are David Lowery films, and you can definitely get that within this one. And I think that brought it down. I think we needed that magic from Neverland to really boost and elevate this movie as a whole, and we just did not get that. Going into Neverland, once we meet the Lost Boys, I just felt they were sidelined. I was very disappointed by that. We also get this new take that, the Lost Boys is a mix of boys and girls. I'm totally cool with that. If you look at the Lost Boys as just being just this concept of just orphans, children that are lost, or things like that, totally fine with that. They each get a couple of moments, but I felt like the Lost Boys were just sidelined and never got this true moment to really shine. Even when it comes to the pirates, I just wasn't overly impressed with the pirates. If you look at this compared to something like Hook, I don't know, I wasn't vibing with it. We also get, primarily focused around Captain Hook and Shmi. Shmi is played by Jim Gaffigan. I think the design for Shmi was really good, and he's a little bit quieter in this one. Is very observant, so you can definitely see that, and you get more of the relationship between Shmi and Captain Hook, because there's a few moments where you almost think Captain Hook's just gonna like take out Shmi. That's another thing, is they get very aggressive in terms of like talking about execution, and you get a couple of moments where it's looking like these pirates are gonna execute these children, so you do get a little bit darker tones there. But even like some moments between Captain Hook and Shmi just feels a little bit on the darker side, but you still know that there's a connection there. And going to that connection, we do get more of a backstory around Captain Hook, played by Jude Law. I thought Jude Law did a pretty decent job, but I still felt that Captain Hook was a big miss, because if you look at Captain Hook in the stories, even in Hook, he has this very specific presence and vibe about him, the way he looks. If you look into the book, he's got this very characteristic distinction about his black mustache and his hair and just the way he moves and how he dressed. None of that was in this, and I just felt it took away from the full experience of seeing Captain Hook versus Peter Pan. This is a very dark and gritty version. I've never really read this book. I didn't know too much about it, but I knew like there was this book called The Lost Boy out, and I looked more into it, and it's supposed to be essentially the origin story of Captain Hook. And I think what they did was they tried to pull from that and from the classic Peter Pan story and merge those together. So you do get some interesting things that happen in this, and I think it makes sense in ways, and I think a lot of people can be on board with it. I just wasn't overly happy with the full execution of it. I think if we would have really gotten more of the characteristic design of Hook from the books and Peter Pan and really focused on those, that's what have made this stand out more. Overall, we've got more CGI in this. There are definitely some moments that stand out. You get that classic moment with Hook and the crocodile. It's almost taken from the animated film. It was fun to watch, but when you look at everything else and the story that they're trying to do, it just felt lackluster. It was hard to find the actual story here. You get the key elements of Peter Pan, but everything just kind of felt rushed. It felt a little bit too focused on certain characters and moments and things Disney's were trying to do here, and it just made this a disappointing watch for me. So I really hate that. I'm such a huge fan of Peter Pan. I think a lot of people probably would still enjoy this. If you like Peter Pan, if you like Jude Law, I think some people will probably find some enjoyment in this. But if you're really tied into the character and the story like I am, I don't know. But I'm curious. Let me know what you thought of Peter Pan and Wendy in the comments below. In terms of rating, I'm just gonna give this a 5 out of 10. I think there were some good pieces to it, but it wasn't enough for me to really love it like I wanted to. So I'm gonna go right down the middle, 5 out of 10. I do think a lot of people will probably like this. My kids enjoyed it. I think kids are really gonna like it because they're really gonna be looking at the sword fighting, pirates, and a couple of the other, you know, kind of magical, fun elements that you do get to see in this. But as a longtime Peter Pan fan, it just didn't hit the mark I was hoping for. So a little bummed about it, but it is what it is. So thank you so much for checking out the channel. Be sure to like and subscribe. I've definitely been away for a while. I've had a lot of travel and family events and things like that. So I hope to get back to doing reviews soon. I'm planning to do maybe one video that just does quick reviews of a bunch of things that I've seen. But Peter Pan was something special to me, so I wanted to get a solo video out for this. So once again, let me know if you saw Peter Pan and Wendy in the comments. What is your favorite version of Peter Pan, whether it be the old school animation, Hook, or any of the other live action adaptations? Would love to know. Mine, definitely Hook. I just really love Hook, and definitely will watch it many, many times. So thank you so much again, and we'll see you very soon.